Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast we bring you each and every day. This is your match reaction and player ratings. Liverpool 2, Wolves 2. A result that neither manager would have wanted in terms of replays, in terms of extra games and all that kind of stuff. But certainly, again, very disappointing from Liverpool. Some moments, of course, that we need to talk about, but overall, I think again, I'm kind of coming to the conclusion now that this is kind of the season that we're going to have. We're going to, take a couple of steps forward, then a step back, then remain the same, then a couple of steps forward, a step back. But I find it very hard to believe at the moment that we're going to be anywhere near a top four. I just see it very difficult at the moment. I have to say today, I thought the lads, obviously boy out by Cody, Gap Poe in the side would have given them a lift and stuff like that. He didn't seem to get into the game as much as I thought he might be. I think we started off with a little bit more. We were a bit more aggressive. We were a bit more energetic, which was good to see. Kind of moving the ball around, but again, slightly laboured and a bit wayward in our passing. We were coughing up the ball a bit cheap as well at times. And then we give up on 26 minutes, an absolute howler from Alisson. And look, we're not going to go in on Alisson because, quite frankly, without Alisson, we wouldn't be even in top half of the table, let's be honest here, so we're not going to go in on the keeper. It's a mistake. It's a bad mistake. It's a glaring mistake. It's the last thing we need at the moment in a team that's lacking confidence, in a team that's lacking everything that Liverpool is about at the moment. Where do we begin? We had a manager at a press conference yesterday getting all tetchy about conversations about being asked about the midfield and, being asked about the defence and stuff like that, and didn't really want to get into conversations about it. But the truth is, we're operating in a situation of denial now and it's a real worry and concern because, as we always say, Jurgen is the superstar of the team. He's the man, he's the leader, he's the guy that people look to. And if he's of that belief, and if he's of that kind of representation, that's what's going to filter down into the team. And hence, that's the performances that we're getting. But safe to say, tonight was a difficult one as well, because not only couldn't we rely on some of the players that were out there, we also couldn't rely on our keeper today. And that's very unusual and generally very isolated. But if Alisson Becker is coughing up chances, and if Alisson Becker is making mistakes, then that'll tell you how bad the confidence is at the moment in the group, because he's normally solid as a rock. He's normally as good as, if not the best keeper in the world. But it was weird tonight. Konate was missing in terms of he wasn't his usual strong, determined, controlled way. He seemed a little bit all over the place. And it's real concerning as well, because he's the guy who we say is holding the mantle. He's the guy who's going to be the guy who's going to replace Virgil eventually, so it's a little bit concerning. I think we started today with probably our strongest lineup that we could. Certainly the substitutions will tell you that anyway. And I think at this stage, if you're following the show, I think most people know my view on the substitutions. I think if you're bringing on Naby Keita, it's a waste of time. I think if you're going to put someone into the midfield, it's Viet that you need to be bringing on. I think if you're bringing on Ox, I think it's a waste of time. I don't care what the situation is. And when I see those guys, quite frankly now, and this is not any disrespect to anyone or something like that, but those guys are done with the club. And when you see those guys coming on, I don't know about you guys, you can let me know in the chat, but when I see those guys coming on, I literally just switch off in the game. And in our WhatsApp group, As soon as Naby Keita came on, I turned around in our WhatsApp group and I said, best of luck, Wolves, in the next round of the Cup. It's just, it's poor. And look, I don't care how good they play. I don't care whether Rocks was man of the match in the last game. And I really don't give a damn. They're not good enough. They're not Liverpool players. They've been checked out for a long time now. And they've been cleaving this club of money for a long time now. And I just have zero interest in them at this stage. And the sooner the better they're gone. Let's be honest. But I don't know. It's a difficult time at the moment now for Liverpool fans. Some fans will have only been caught up in the recent success of the club over the last number of years, whereas I've endured this for 30, 40 years at this stage. So I've seen the success. I've seen us at the peak, at the height. I've seen us go downhill. I've seen us go through all that time in the 90s and the noughties and all that kind of thing, and how we struggled, and we were in the shadow of United and in the shadow of Arsenal and in the shadow of Chelsea, and but we were there and we weren't there, and we were settling for our third and fourth choice players, sometimes fifth choice players. We brought in people to manage the club that should have never got inside the gate. We brought in players that wore that famous Liverpool jersey that had no right to wear it. And it truly is, and I really believe at this stage, it's the end of this team. It's a massive job for Jurgen Klopp now to rebuild this team. And the concerning thing is, when questioned about it, he generally is in denial of what needs to be done. Now, either he's protecting FSG, or he really doesn't see it, or what these guys are showing him in the training ground is very different to what's ending up getting deployed on the pitch. And we've seen players coming out the other day saying that the plan that was laid down is not the plan that was deployed at Brentford, and that's why we got caught and that's why we lost and stuff like that. Well, if that's the case, are the players not listening to the manager anymore? Are the players not listening to Pep Linders and the coaching and the tactics of what we're going into a game? And if that's the case, why is that happening? And why is it allowed to happen? And that's a decent Wolves side. Didn't start out. If you look at them, the starting 11 that he deployed wouldn't necessarily be the starting 11, I would imagine. He made some really good changes. The 3 substitutions came on, and I also said in our WhatsApp group when the 3 substitutions came on that they were going to be really, really good. And here we go, and there will be goals in them. Matheus Nunes came on, just acting and giving us more proof of our naivety in the transfer market. That he was certainly a player we should have bought. He looked excellent. Hwang, who we know is a very active player and stuff like that and all, and he's a tidy little player when he wants to be. And we were very, very lucky, very, very lucky to find ourselves even in a replay. Yeah, we created a couple of chances. Obviously Nunes got the equaliser on 45 minutes. What a ball from Trent. I just wish Trent's output was more. There was more of that kind of level of output in terms of the quality, as opposed to a lot of the hit and hope stuff that we get as well. And I just think there could be more of that. And I thought Nunes took his goal well. I know some people will say he shinned it. And some people will say, thank God he didn't connect with it with his foot, or it might have ended up out in Stanley Park or something like that, or at the top of the new Annie stand or whatever it is. But at least he scored, and he looked delighted to have scored, and that will help his confidence a lot. And I was delighted for the boy, in fairness, that he scored, and his celebration said it all. The relief in his celebration, and he has been very unlucky. He has been working hard. He's been given the name Captain Chaos and all this kind of stuff and all. But his goal there was a significant one insofar as we're the first team in the league with two players on 10 plus goals. And I was quite shocked at that, actually. I was actually quite shocked when I heard that. But it just goes to show you, like, you hear people, tending to write this guy off and stuff like that. And yes, his output has to be much better and his finishing has to be much better. We know that. He certainly looked a lot better, I think, when he switched out onto the left a little bit. And it seems to be, I was talking with Ben earlier when we were watching the match, and it seems to be that his best output seems to be when he's on the left. So maybe from a tactics point of view, maybe we're not doing the right thing with him, and maybe that's potentially what's causing problem. I mean, obviously there's glaring misses there that he should never miss. The boy should have at least 5 or 6 more goals this season, at least, which will put him on 15, 16 goals, which is pretty good return for a guy who's in the league for the first time and bedding in and stuff like that, and under a lot of pressure with a big move and a big money move to a big club. Ian's in the comments here. I'll go back to the comments. Sorry about that. How are you? No, what's the crack? Where's Daz? Daz doesn't do these, it's only me. This is the Liverpool podcast within the channel. Daz doesn't. Daz is a Man United fan, so he only does the Mondays and the Thursdays normally. It's all me. So yeah, it's a difficult one, Coyle's in there as well. How are you, Coyle? We were talking to Coyle today. We were on Warren's show. Check out Warren's channel. Absolutely fantastic. He does a Saturday afternoon show, and it's great crack. Don't worry about it. We will win the cup, mate. Big up to you, Niall. Yeah, I tell you, I said it today, a league and cup double, and I wasn't messing, Coyle, when I said it. But I think a replay is the last thing either of our teams wanted and stuff like that. And Wolves and Newcastle. God, it was ourselves. Yeah, we didn't need a replay at all. It was terrible. But yeah, just on my train of thought there. So it's hard to, it's hard to pick bones in it and stuff like that. Obviously, after the break, we took the lead with Salah on 52 minutes. A goal that was a kind of a weird one as well. I mean, the refereeing tonight, it's not that the refereeing was the problem tonight. It's that the deployment of the rules, and the rules are just, they're so strange. Like that third goal for Wolves, I still don't understand why it was chalked off. To me, it looked like a perfectly good goal. Salah's one again is a weird one as well, with Toddy interfering and making the contact or whatever it was. So Salah then is deemed to be onside and scores the goal literally in the box on his own, takes the ball down and finishes as he does. So the contrast in the deployment of the rules is very, very strange as well. It's just a weird one, and it's cropping up more and more and more. But as I said, he made that triple substitution, Lopetegui, and 3 very good players coming on. And it's a difficult one. Hwang got his goal, of course, and took it well to even it up, and they really could have won it. Coyle in there. What's your opinion on Nunez? I've kind of mixed opinion on him. I think he's genuinely working really hard. I think he's probably, you would argue, probably him and Thiago are probably the 2 hardest working players in the team at the moment, I would say. He's getting into positions. He's getting into those positions for those chances, to take those chances. And he just simply hasn't taken the chances that you would expect him to take. At times, I think he's been really unlucky. He scored a lovely goal the other night, but unfortunately he was offside. He was lucky with the one the other night as well, the one against Leicester, that he clipped it over the keeper and it hit the post and came back out, and then the Leicester player put it in the back of the net and stuff like that. So he is creating chances, but I think there's a lack of energy up there. I think if you have him up there and then you have Ox there, which I think is an absolute waste of time. I think it's a hindrance at this stage when you're playing players that are not the future of the club and they're not going to be there. It just brings the level down. And I think you've got Salah on the other side as well, and where Salah's okay, he's tiptoeing along and he's putting in the goals and getting some assists and stuff like that. He's a mile away from the Salah that we know in terms of his overall contribution in the game. Apart from scoring goals, which he has been doing, and apart from some assists and stuff like that, I think he's he's way off the Salah that we know. He takes on players, he loses the ball so easy. His trickery is a lot slower now. That link up play between himself and Hendo and Trent that was so positive and so strong for us, that triangle of play that used to work a treat up there, is invisible and doesn't happen anymore. His reading of the game at the time at times is off. When long balls are hit to him or balls over the top or something like that, he just doesn't see it. And I think it's a disjointment within the team where we have lost our way. But I think Nunes, I think he will come good. And I think he has done okay. But the misses that he misses are glaring misses. So obviously they're highlighted and elevated. And a lot of people find him easy as a target to go in on and go, oh, this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, and he's a flop and this type of money and all that kind of thing. But I think you have to give these players, you have to give them a bit of time and stuff like that. And I think he is bedding in, and he's come into Liverpool in a really difficult time where we've been smashed with injuries. We've also been poor at times in our play. We got off to a really bad start in the season. And we've struggled to find our form again because we've had players in and out of the side. Then we were starting to find our form, we were starting to find our gear, and then the World Cup came along, and that broke that up. And then we've come back and we've kind of spluttered through the Christmas period with a lot of luck at times, and got through certain fixtures, and then Brentford told the tale. Brentford, to me, that Brentford game is as significant as the Napoli game we had earlier in the season where they absolutely smashed us. And I think that's the real concern. But the bigger concern is that at the top level, that they don't see the glaring issues that are there. Or maybe they do, but they don't want to voice it in public. I don't expect managers to sit in press conferences throwing players under the bus, but I do expect managers to recognise what the issues are and what needs to be worked on and what needs to be fixed. And you go knocking on the owner's door and you tell them what you need, because the big thing for us at the moment is if we drop out of that top four, with the way teams are investing, with the way teams are coming up in prominence, the likes of Newcastle with the new money that they have, obviously Chelsea with the new ownership that they have, and various other teams that are very, very clever in the transfer market, we could very quickly slip away and be left behind. And the last thing we need next season is Thursday night football, because it's just a curse. Back in again, Kyle. I think Salah definitely not the same player, and Mane is a huge loss. Yeah, Mane is a huge loss, and he was always going to be a huge loss. He was that work engine in there in terms of the press, and that's our biggest problem at the moment. Our biggest problem at the moment is that our press is so disjointed, and our midfield then is so exposed. And that's why teams can find it very easy to counter us and stuff like that, because we're not squeezing them in and we're letting them out, and it's too easy. And that's something that we just have to find again, and that's something that does need a change of personnel, but very quickly needs people to get more in tune with each other and stuff like that. And I find that's a problem. Always support the team you follow and be true to those colours. I'm always true to those colours, and I've been following Liverpool now for 42, 43 years at this stage. I've never changed my colours. I do a podcast and I voice my opinion, and I waited long enough to do it. But yeah, I just think we're at a crossroads at the moment. We're in a transfer window at the moment. I don't want to hear any more about whether FSG have money or not. 275 million the other day they spent on a baseball player. And it's probably because the Red Sox fans came out and they were really, really vocal. And they really tore into FSG about their treatment of the Red Sox. Whereas we as Liverpool fans, we don't do enough of that. We roll over and we let our bellies get tickled, really, in terms of some of the things that go on there. We should be way more vocal and way more critical at times. And when I talk about FSG, I include the gaffer in that as well, because I don't think at this stage, with what's going on at Liverpool, I don't think anyone at Liverpool should be immune to criticism, because it's top down to bottom all the way. And we celebrate together and we take the losses together, which means we're all in this together. And it's just a real tough one at the moment. Our play is disjointed. Our confidence is on the floor. Our passing is as poor as I've seen from a Liverpool side. Our ball retention, where at times it's really good, and our possession and stuff like that, but it's what you do with that possession. Like, there's no point in having 70, 75, 75, 70, 80% possession in a game if all you're doing is knocking around and hitting hope and all that kind of thing. You really need to be working with that possession, and it's the output of that possession and what happens with it. And that's really, really lacking at the moment. I don't think, for all the possession we have in games, we're really controlling the games. I find at times, even in possession, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because they say that, like, you have to have the ball to control the game. I find at the moment it's the reverse with Liverpool. I find with Liverpool, when they have the ball and they have all this possession, the other team is controlling the game. Whereas before, we would have been dictating the game. We would have been controlling the game and the narrative. We would have been pressing. We would have been creating opportunities. And even the opportunities we create at times, they're half-assed. I mean, if you look at tonight, I mean, the real bit of quality was that ball from Trent into Nunes. And although Nunes finished it and some will say he shinned it and stuff like that, he still put it away. And it was still a lovely team goal. And it was more like the Trent that we expect, picking out a player, a bit of, dare I say, how could you word this? A little bit to his game, you know what I mean? That little bit of quality. We've lost that. We're laboured in our work now, and we've lost our nous. We've lost our cleverness in football and stuff like that. And I just think we need to try and find that again. I think we really, really struggle. Even doing the basics, we really, really struggle. I noticed since the start of the season, Klopp looks very thin and sick looking. I'm wondering, has he any underlying health issues? Not, I don't know. I did say that. I mentioned that on a podcast a while ago, Kyle. I seen him doing an interview after. What game was it now? I can't remember which game it was. But he looked terrible. He looked really gone in the face, and his colour and all was weird and stuff like that. I don't think that's the case, and I hope it's not the case. But again, you never know. But I just think it's I don't know. It's when you're managing a big club like Liverpool, and you're the pressure of you at the top of that game for this amount of years at this stage. I mean, if you stare, 7 years now or whatever it is, and okay, if you take a year either side, he's had 5 years of an intense battle against Pep, and in Europe, and in the Premier League, to hang with Man City at times when we had no right to, because basically we didn't really match up to them, but through endeavour, and through motivation and through mentality, we were able to stick with them, and sometimes we just came up that bit short. I think the mental fatigue of that can certainly play on you, and has certainly played on these players. And even the mental fatigue last year, and the energy that was required to keep a quad alive, to keep a dream alive and stuff like that, I'm sure was very, very difficult as well. And I'm by no means making any excuses for these players. It's a new season. It's a new start. We had high hopes coming into this season, and we were all very excited when Darwin Núñez signed. But it's always, dare I say, there's always one thing short. You sign a forward guy. If you look at the players that left in the summer and stuff like that, we basically lost 3 forward players. We signed Darwin Núñez. Carvalho came in, but he's kind of more of a project. And certainly seems that way when you look at him sitting on the bench there. Klopp doesn't seem to have an appetite at the moment to play him. But I just think it's one of those things at the moment. It's a real struggle. The basics of football at the moment is a real heavy labour for us. We've lost our, dare I say, to take a wrestling coin phrase, we've lost our smile. And it doesn't look like we're enjoying football anymore. And I'm just wondering, is training the same? Has training become a laboured type of thing? There's talk coming out that we've heard leaking out of the club, that Pep Linders is having more of an influence on decisions on players and on signings and stuff like that. And that's why the frustration is there in the background. And the likes of Julian Ward is leaving and stuff like that. And apparently a lot of that is the influence of that. I don't know how true that is, but if that's the case, it's absolutely shocking, because we had a great setup there in terms of our hiring of players and our and just, we were so successful in that area. And shout out to Daz, Warren, and Morris. Yeah, absolutely. Coyle back in. Van Dijk not the same since the injury against Everton, mate. Do you think? Yeah, I think it's just. Do you know what it is? It's just I think with him, I think he definitely seems to have slowed down a touch. I think a lot of it as well is, um, although we revered Virgil van Dijk as being the best central defender in the world at that time, I think of a lot of it goes down to Fabinho as well. And I think Fabinho had a big say in that as well, in the way he played. Um, we looked at it for years at Chelsea when they had Makelele and stuff like that, and we didn't realise the influence that he made until he was gone. He was a phenomenal player, and Fabinho was very in that ilk as well. And I think a lot of how good Virgil was had a lot to do with how good Fabinho was. And I think we had a kind of a system there. And I think now that Fabinho is also struggling, he's had some personal issues, but certainly looks like he's feeling the journey. And when you're training at such a high level, and when you're performing at such a high level, and you have such an expectation on you as well, that weighs so heavy, that can drain you of your energy and stuff like that. And very quickly and rapidly, you lose what you were before. And I think a lot of that is to do with Van Dijk as well. I think, that injury, and losing that season and stuff like that was very, very tough on him, I'd say. At times this season, he's looked okay. At times, his decision making has been off. At times, he has looked a bit too relaxed. And there's not this kind of aura or fear around them now for front men and stuff like that. They don't look at them now in the same ilk that they did, because they know they can kind of get at them a little bit. And when you know you can get at a defender and you can rattle them a little bit, you're going to have a go more so than if you're sitting back and you're going, this is Virgil van Dijk, this is going to be a tough day at the office. But Liverpool hasn't become a tough day at the office. It's become an easy day at the office, and teams are now rocking up to Liverpool, be it home or away, and they're saying, we've nothing to fear here at all. Their confidence is in the ground. You can tell what the managers are saying to the opposition all the time. These guys, their confidence is on the ground. They're not playing well. They've had injuries. They haven't had a really settled side, and they're struggling. And this is a good time to play Liverpool. And that's the reality of it. Whereas before, we were beating teams at times before we even went out onto Anfield, or even in the away games and stuff like that. We'd rock up, and we'd have an arrogance about us that didn't that we could back up. An arrogance insofar that led to a motivation, that led to a level of performance, and that's now missing as well. So there's a real mentality issue there at the moment. But yeah, I take your point on Van Dijk. It's you can see it. It will take time before we're back on track. Yeah, I know. That's the fear, you see. Where do you think we will? Where do you think we will finish this season now? Arsenal. I think Arsenal, if they get the signings in that they've been linked with, and I think if you get a few players in the door, I think you have a real great chance of winning the league. I think as good a chance as you've had in a long, long time. I think City can be got at. I think City look more susceptible to dropping points than News do at the moment. I think if you can keep what you have there fit, the likes of Partey and stuff like that, and I think if you can bring in a couple of key signings, quality key signings, I think you have a fantastic chance. And remember, if you can get through January's going to be a real tough month for you. But if you can get through January with X amount of points, February should be easier for you. And then before you know it, Jesus will be back as well. and then you'll be in a much stronger position. But I mean, if you can get that Mudryk guy over the line, he'd be a fabulous signing for you, and that would be a statement signing. And I think if you bring in a couple of key signings, even a key signing and a key loan deal, even, if you were to bring in Mudryk and Joe Felix, that would give your squad such a lift, and all those players such a lift. And you've got players there at the moment that are playing really, really well. I remember being on a couple of shows, even with you, Kyle, and I was talking about Martin Odegaard, and people were laughing at me. Martin Odegaard is going to develop into a fabulous player and is doing bits at Arsenal at the moment. He may not be the captain that you want in terms of being vocal and all that kind of stuff like that, but the way he goes about his business, he's very professional about it, and he's going to be a really, really good player, and is a really, really good player. And I said that from the start when we even had those conversations about Arteta and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal went on and won the league this year. And if we haven't got a card in the game, then I'm quite happy for Arsenal to win the league. As I've said to you before, if I didn't follow Liverpool, I'd probably follow Arsenal. I like Arsenal as a club. I like what they stand for, and I like what they're about. And I've always admired their play, especially through the Wenger era. And I think you have a great chance. And I think if you do the right thing, if they back Arteta, if they give him the money he needs, if they get those deals over the line, I think you have a fabulous chance. And I think it's as good a chance as you're going to get, to be honest. Because then come next season, all the teams are going to strengthen. It's going to be so much more difficult. Odegaard has proven me wrong. He is developing into a brilliant player, Noel. Absolutely cool. And I think there's probably between yourself, myself, and Dell and Warren, we've had lots of conversations about Arsenal and stuff like that. And I was kind of all in on this boy right from the beginning when people were calling him Odegaard and stuff like that and all. And I think it was a stretch. I thought it was very disrespectful at times when he was trying to. I mean, he had taken on the mantle of the Arsenal captain and stuff like that, which is not an easy one. Look at Granit Xhaka, and then you look at the documentary on Amazon and stuff like that. Arteta looked brilliant in it. You could see his passion. You could see that he cared. You can see that they care now. So he's got an insight into it, and they do care. And Arteta could develop into a really, really good manager. And I think you're doing all the right things at the moment. I like the way the steps are being taken, and the way it's being phased. And you had to phase out a lot of players, and revisit that culture there at Arsenal again that had gone in the wrong way. But now is not the time to be taking steps. Now is the time to take those leaps, get those players in, cement that position at the top, and push on, create more of a gap if you can. Also back in, I'm the same, Niall. I always shout for Liverpool when I know we won't win. I wasn't an Arsenal fan, I'd be a Liverpool fan. 100%. I mean, the last thing we need, and I've said this on the podcast, I've even spoke to Darren about it as well, I could see this league tightening up greatly if Arsenal don't do what they should do in the market. And Man City continue kind of in the vein that they are at the moment, where they can be got at and they look like they'll drop points. I can see this tightening really, really up. And you could even find Newcastle, or you could find Man United in a title race, and this could become a title race with 4 or 5 teams in it. I even said it the other day. I was thinking about the other day prior to the Brentford game when we got beaten, and I was thinking that if we could have bet Brentford and we could have kept the run going. And if we could have brought in another player or two, even if it was a player on a loan deal or whatever it is, and get a few players back as well, that we weren't that far off it either, that we might be able to, reel Arsenal or Man City back in. But now I know that's going to be a stretch too much. Because we look, again, as I say, when you're looking and you're talking about who you think is going to win the league and stuff, that you look at who's more susceptible to dropping points. We're dropping points at the moment for fun. No, you can't, and you're dead right, you can't write off United, Niall, and Ten Hag is doing a fantastic job there. He's brought in some players. Casemiro's been excellent. Martinez has been excellent. You see, even last night when he came on, he just shuts players down. Awesome. Rashford is back to as good as he's been in a long time. But they still have a number of things there that need to be fixed. They're not quite where you would want them to be. But certainly they've started off really good this season. They look a proper outfit. They don't look like they're going to drop too many points. and that often is the sign of a real good team that could be in the title race. Yeah, but I mean, here's hoping. Look, I know we're probably not going to win it, so hats off. Hopefully, Arsenal will. You know, I'm a big supporter of you guys and stuff like that. I mention it all the time on most of the podcasts that I'm always happy when I see Arsenal doing well, except when they're playing against us, of course. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, big month coming up for you guys. Need to lay down a marker, but get the signings in. Get the signings in and get your business done early. Don't be signing players on the 30th. You know what I mean? Get them in so they can influence potentially the games that are coming up. You have a huge 3 to 4 weeks ahead of you now, and that will define whether you're in a title race or not. Big games coming up for Man City as well. Look at next week. What have you got? You have the North London Derby, don't you? And I think Man City are playing. You have the Manchester Derby coming up as well within that week or something like that. So big games coming up at the moment. You are right, baby. That's just the dog, the mascot. Let's get into then. Let's after I poured my heart out that and what I thought about that performance tonight, just all I can chalk it down to is, look, it's an extra game now that we didn't need, considering the situation that we're in. Kyle, it's great listening to you, Niall, and always nice with no bad language, unlike me. Listen, there's a time and a place for it, and listen, I say plenty of things before I come on here, pal. Sometimes I just have to calm myself down before I absolutely properly lose my shit at times. But if you seen me downstairs tonight watching that match, you wouldn't think the same thing. Hence the reason I generally don't do watch-alongs, because I think if I did watch-alongs, I might be cancelled because I get really frustrated at times. And it's out of love and out of passion for my club. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it's all good. You know, sometimes it shows that we care, pal. You know, and it's always good when you know that you care. Let's get into these ratings. Where do we start? Alison Becker. Not often I'm going to drop this guy a bad rating. This guy generally is in around the man of the match. But tonight he gets a 4. That pass, I don't know what he was thinking. It's the weirdest thing ever. And even the second goal is nearly right under his ass. And it's just a weird one. It's just a calamity of stuff. He's just gone through a confidence thing as well, like the rest of the team. But normally we feel that we can sort of, you know, we can rely on him, we can lean on him, because he's Mr. Reliable and stuff like that. But tonight he didn't. But I mean, the good thing about tonight is he got that one out of his way. His distribution as well has become a little bit strange as well. If you find there's a lot of throw out balls and flick balls and stuff like that. And if sometimes it feels like he's just getting rid of it rather than trying to influence it, and, you know, with intent. I talk on the podcast all the time about intent and that we should play football with intent. You know, when we're putting balls into the box, it's with intent, not just hit and hope, not just lobbing a ball into the box and praying that one of our players gets on the end of it. Look up, pick a player out and pick a pass, not just lob it in. And it's the same, and that starts from the back right to the front. And I think with Alisson as well, I think his distribution at times has been better. I've noticed that also Thiago is dropping a lot deeper these days in order to pick up the ball to try and influence the play. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or not, because it pushes us right back and stuff like that. I'd rather if Thiago held more of his position and more of our shape, and that we used our back players and our wing backs the way we have in the past. Just noticed it tonight that he was back there a lot in that back 4, taking the ball and dictating the play. Whereas I think with Alisson, his distribution is way better than that. He doesn't deserve that, and I think he could be better. But a 4, big calamitous today. But sure, look, we're going to go to a replay. Last thing that we needed, but we're not out of the cup yet. Last thing we want to be doing is coughing up both trophies that we won last year. Trent, I gave a 6-2. His pass to Nunes was absolutely sublime. As good a pass over the defence as you'll see, and a beautiful finish from Nunes. But again, you know, a couple of good balls in the second half and stuff like that. I thought in the first half, I thought he laboured a little bit. I think that the link-up play with Salah has just vanished for some reason. I don't understand why. I used to love seeing those balls where he'd play into Hendo would play to Salah, Trent would be on the overlap. the ball will go out to him and stuff like that, but with purpose. And I think we're slower in releasing the ball as well. I think you'll notice tonight as well, at times when we went to release the ball, I mean, how many balls did we try to play in tonight that were blocked by Wolves players, whereas normally we'd be sharper at putting those balls in. I just think we're a little bit slower at releasing the ball. And again, a lot of that, I reckon, has to do with confidence. So I gave Trent a 6, great ball in, subbed on 84. But again, tonight, just not firing in the Trent Alexander way. That's how I would describe it. Matip gave a 6-2. Probably could have given a 5-2. Got away with an error early on when he got caught in possession like that. Just it's this laid back approach again, pondering on the ball and thinking you can do things that you really shouldn't be doing in your own box. I mean, we coach that, don't we, as coaches? Don't play around with the ball in your own box ever, especially as a central defender. It's a bad thing to be doing. Sometimes you will get caught. Did okay after that. But again, I think I think himself and Konate at times do be a little bit too far apart and stuff like that, and it leaves us a little bit open. And I don't think they communicate enough. I think these two guys at the back, their stature and stuff like that, and especially Matip now, as the length of time he's been in the team and stuff like that, I didn't see anyone tonight being vocal. And I'd like our guys at the back. I say it all the time about Virgil van Dijk as well. I need these guys to be more vocal. They need to be talking all the time. They need to be on people, keep people on their toes. I think we become really quiet on the pitch and complacent in that area, whereas before we would be absolutely tearing it. And we've just backed off that for some reason. Konate, I gave a 6-2. I thought he was solid enough in the first half. Getting back to stop counter-attacks and stuff like that and all. But I think there's just a kind of where he's normally very, very composed and very strong and very determined in his way. I think the Brentford goal the other night probably hit his confidence a little bit, which was a perfectly good goal. But I think because again it's a confidence thing, I think he's a little bit laboured in what he wants to get done, and he could be doing it a lot easier by expelling less mental energy, if you want. And I think at times he looks a little bit haphazard, so it gives the impression that he's a little bit nervous, and it encourages players to do what they do to him. Whereas in the past, he's just been solid, cool, controlled on the ball, picks up a ball, makes a little bit of a run, plays the ball off. Now it just looks a little bit uncontrolled and a little bit laboured. And again, it's just a confidence thing that has spread through the team. So 6 for Konate tonight. Where we go next? Had all these written down. Robbo's one of those players that he's just, he's full of energy. He's an honest pro. He'll run all day for you and stuff like that. But when there's a breakdown in the system, and himself and Trent heavily rely on the system functioning to make their kind of part in the team shine. And I think I gave him a 6 tonight. I think he plugged away in the first half as much as he could and stuff like that. But I think, again, he's going in there, and now he has another new player that he's trying to figure out, and it's Cody Gakpo. And he's trying to figure that out. He was easily beaten for that Toddy goal, which we're still trying to figure out was offside and stuff like that. And deemed offside. But I just think with Robbo's one of those where he'll generally always give you a 7 or more. But again, just struggling a little bit as well in terms of trying to figure up that link play. He's making runs that don't, Cody was picking up the ball tonight, checking in on the inside to try and come back around. Robbo had already read the run, but the run was a waste of time because the ball didn't feed to him. Cody was switching the ball back inside. And it's just, you're not going to have that understanding after a couple of days of training and stuff like that. And I think over time it will flourish. Robbo's one of those players in the team that I don't necessarily worry about. I think at times he does show a little bit of fatigue from the journey he's been on with Liverpool. The training must be intense, the intensity of the last few years, the weight of expectation, especially for a lad like him who's come in from where he's come in from, and he's been a huge success. And I just think it's figuring out that link up play and stuff like that, and I think it will come. But a 6 tonight. Thiago tonight, I'm going to give a 5 to. He has been a shining light in the team, in terms of his energy, in terms of what he brings to the team. His passing at times is sublime. His passing tonight I thought was off. He was passing at times and balls were getting kicked out of play. And again, sometimes I wonder with Thiago, is he operating on a level of thinking of football that's above the level that's there at the moment in terms of meeting? And I just think that could be a problem with Thiago. But I think, I've heard people talking tonight that sometimes Thiago in the team doesn't make the team better. But then again, I don't know what the answer is. If you take him out of the team, then where's the creativity going to come from? We've seen when we lose him, our creativity is as blunt as be damned, create nothing. So I don't know whether that rings true or not. I think with Thiago at the moment, I think his game is labouring a little bit because maybe he's operating at a better level. He's still performing at a level in terms of his passing and his eye for the game and his creativity and his, dare I say, he's one of few players on the pitch at the moment for us that is still showing that bit of football nous and trickery and kind of cleverness, whereas everyone else is operating in a mundane, basic kind of fashion. He's sort of operating at a different level. And that's why it's difficult. And at times it can look quite foolish when he does stuff, but you can see what he's trying to do, but no one else does. And then it can look a bit foolish with what he's trying to do. Fabinho, give Fabinho a 5. I think he struggled a little bit in the first half, his passing, and he was bypassed a couple of times as well. And we're seeing this a lot this season. This is a repetitive kind of narrative about Fabinho at the moment. We have seen signs of a bit more aggression in there and stuff like that, and a bit more of the Fabinho that we knew. But I think opposition players at times have worked out a little bit. He gets a little bit isolated, and again, maybe that's the way the midfield is at the moment. It's a little bit disjointed because you have him trying to operate with what he does. You've got Thiago with the creativity and the flair. You've got Hendo who's going to be dogged in there. And I think between the three of them, there's just a little bit, we're so imbalanced, I think, in the midfield at the moment that we're not operating as a unit. And I think that's why we're struggling, to be honest. And I think their midfields is where games are won and lost. And I just think that's where we're struggling at the moment. There's an imbalance in there at the minute. Let's see who's up next. Who have we got next? Jordan Henderson. Captain Fantastic, Jordan Henderson. Give Jordan a 5 tonight. I really think Jordan at the moment, I don't know, it's just that there's a sort of a fed upness about the team, isn't there? Because for a while now, the team is being questioned. There's people are being critical. We were on this massive tidal wave of success and fantastic play and scoring loads of goals and keeping clean sheets and blowing teams away and smashing records. And now all of a sudden, there's a little bit of heat on us, and we can't figure out how to deal with that. And this is as quiet tonight as I've seen Jordan on the pitch. When passes go astray and when balls go astray, and when the opposition do what they do and all that kind of thing, there's now a quietness to him. It's like there's an acceptance of it that it's just going to happen. Whereas him as the captain out there should be absolutely rinsing lads. And especially with Virgil not there, who tends to be that voice as well, and Jimmy Milner. I think that's a real problem at the moment. And I think if you're going to wear that captain's armband, I think you need to bring a little bit more than you're bringing at the moment. Now, albeit the guy was out with a concussion last week and only kind of back in training and stuff like that and all. And look, Wolves are not an easy team. They're an aggressive, physical team who play football. And it requires players to be at a real good level of football. And I think with Hendo, I think he just struggled in the game to influence the game before he would be influencing games. I don't think he's been influencing games as much. And I think as captain, I think he could be more vocal. Cody Gakpo, his debut for the Reds in front of the Anfield crowd must have been great when they heard that he was in the team sheet. Should have given the team a huge lift. Give him a 6. Had an effort in the first half that was straight at the keeper. I would have loved him to pick up a goal on his debut. I love when players get a goal on their debut in front of their home crowd. But him again, he showed a couple of good touches and stuff like that, but there was a number of times where he turned back into trouble. There was a couple of times where passes just didn't reach the teammates. It went to the opposition and stuff like that. And listen, it's understandable. He's only trained with them a few times and stuff like that. He's been thrust in. Wasn't available for the Brentford game. Gets put into a tough game against Wolves, a cup game and stuff like that and all. And I think with a bit more training, I think he'll do okay. Played a part in Salah's goal, of course, when his ball for the Egyptian couldn't be cut out by Toddy, but was subbed on 84 as well. I think he put in a decent shift tonight, without, bringing the kind of flair and the talent that we know he has. We know it's going to take time for the boy to settle in, so we won't judge him too harshly on his performance tonight. Darwin Núñez, Captain Chaos, and all the rest of it that they talk about him. The flop of the transfer window in the summer and all this kind of nonsense. Gets his 10th goal of the season. And Liverpool become the first team to have 2 players with 10 plus goals, which was a strange stat. And I was quite shocked that Ben sent it to me. Kept his composure really good for that finish. Never an easy one to finish off. You can blast and it can be anywhere. Did shin it in. But he had a difficult first half, in terms of wasn't really given the service that he needed and was trying to create it himself. I'm not sure whether playing him up the middle is the right way to go. I think a lot of people have said when he plays out on the left and stuff like that, he seems to have more of an effect on the game. I think obviously it'll take time, obviously, the link up between himself and Cody. I think himself and Salah are linking up slightly better. And I think he's trying to do things and he's working really, really hard. But we're going to have to get to a stage with this boy where we're giving him the service that he needs and he needs to go on a run of goals and finish and stuff like that. I was delighted he got his goal tonight. His celebration was excellent. Shows what it means to him. And that was nice to see. And I'd like to hopefully see him build on this goal now tonight going into next week. So let's see how that goes. Mo I gave a 6 to. Took his goal well, took the ball down. I mean, he was oceans offside. Took the ball down really, really well and finished his composure and as he always does. Was unlucky with the free kick that he sent over the bar. Obviously, he was just leaning back on it too much. The ball's never going to come down when you lean back like that. Free kick 101. Took the goal well to give us the lead. We were a bit fortuitous, obviously, with Toddy's involvement. And we have to talk about Toddy. I mean, he was so unlucky tonight. The goal that was ruled out where he thought he had got the winner. He was so unlucky for that. And obviously, the interference in the goal for Salah as well was really, 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 really unlucky. Wasted a couple of good moments in the box. I find with Salah at the moment, again, it's another confidence thing that we keep talking about. He picks up the ball, beats a couple of players, but wants to hang on to the ball and hang on to the ball and hang on to the ball till he gets to the 6-yard box. And what I'd like to see from the Mo Salah that we had before is I'd like to see him cutting in from the right into the left, go across the box line and just let fly into the far corner. Those fantastic goals we've seen him score against Chelsea like that and stuff like that. Just let fly. let fly and the ball will end up in the back of the net. He's a baller. But for some reason, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's coaching. I don't know whether it's drilling. But no one wants to have a shot unless you're inside the box or inside the 6 yard box, or you're trying to walk the ball into the goal, because people don't have the confidence to do what they do. When you're running on the ball, we've seen it a couple of times tonight where players are picking up balls just outside the box. Just drop a shoulder, move the ball left or right, and just ping it. Let it go. More often than not, it might end up in the back of the net for you. And I'd like to see more of that. I don't see, for the possession that we have in these games and the chances that we're creating, in terms of true chances, I think we should be getting a lot more shots on target, and I think we should be converting a lot more of those shots as well. And I'd like to see Mo Salah going back to just taking shots, taking opportunities when they come along. That was Mo. Who have we got next? Next up, Naby Keita. Naby Keita, funny enough, is going to get a 7 off me tonight, and I think people know from the podcast and stuff like that how I feel about Naby Keita, and how I feel about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and somewhat Curtis Jones, but not as much, because I think Curtis could have a big season, and if he does, he could prove a point, and I hope he proves me wrong. But Keita came on and he added a bit more energy and drive when he came on. Look, some people would say it was an encouraging display. I think the lad's checked out. I think he's playing a kind of ball that's quite safe. I don't think he's delivering the aggression that we would need in midfield. I think he's being really, really careful, and obviously he's been blighted with injuries over the good number of years that he's been at Liverpool. So I'm not surprised that he's being careful, but it's just not the answer we need right now. The answer we need right now is someone in midfield who's going to dig in and have a proper go. And I just don't think he's that guy. Harvey came on. Gave Harvey a 6, some neat touches, but couldn't make the impact required. I just think he struggles a little bit. I think that midfield area for him is a kind of it's a weird dynamic and stuff like that. I think he's very, very clever as a player, but I don't think he has the physicality to match midfields in the Premier League. And I think that's going to be a real struggle for him. And I think we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with Harvey. I don't know. Maybe he needs to become part of pushing for that front three or something like that. Or maybe he needs to push and be that competition for Salah that's badly needed, because I think at times Salah just looks as stale as be damned. And I think it's a lack of competition. He knows he's going to be on the team sheet. And I think maybe that's where we need to deploy Harvey rather than in the midfield. Ben Dow came on fairly late and stuff like that, brings a little bit of energy and stuff like that. We know he's a potentially fabulous player and stuff like that. Always comes on and gives it a full. Didn't rate him. I think it'd be unfair to rate the young lad. But I would like to see him being used a little bit more, and given a little bit more time to see what he's about. Similar to Bietic. I think we need to start using these guys a little bit more to really test our mettle and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I just think it's something that needs to be worked out. Joe Gomez came on as well. I'm not going to rate Joe, obviously. No time really on the pitch as such. But came on. But this is what we're talking about here. This sums it up in a nutshell. You know, they're your player ratings. You know my thoughts on the game, but that sums it up in a nutshell. You know that, like, this is the level, and it's no disrespect to any of these players, but we're talking about Liverpool Football Club here. And if we're very, very serious about our business, if you go back through the years, you know, when we were really, really successful and stuff like that, we used to continually upgrade the squad, player or two here and there, constantly all the time, creating competition, creating drive and stuff like that. And this team has just allowed go a little bit stale. And it needs serious refreshment. We have some players there in the squad who we're trying to figure out what's the best way to deploy them and use them. We've got some youth around the squad that's very, very promising, but we've got to figure out very quickly, are they going to get there? And then we've got a transfer window that badly needs us to do business in it. And it's a weird one, because you look like you're going to go for a midfielder. We sign a forward. You look like you're going to go for a midfielder. And then Van Dijk goes out injured. And you suddenly realise that you might need a defender. And it's just been a catalogue of this all along. But certainly we need a lot of work in our midfield. We need to figure out as a unit going forward and stuff like that what we're about. We need to find our way again. I think 4-3-3 now for us is too predictable. And I think we need to figure out a better way of working. Dave from Dave's LFC Chats has spoke to me before and spoke on this podcast as well about how maybe the answer is a 5 in midfield with 1 up front with players supporting that front line, and maybe get a couple of good results under us with a couple of clean sheets. And that may not be a bad way to go. It could be the right way to go. But certainly what we're deploying at the moment leaves us very open. At a lot of stages on the pitch, we're not functioning as a unit. There's not enough communication. And there's a lot of looking around when things happen. There's a lot of people at the moment who are responsible for what's happening looking quite dumbfounded when it happens. And that for me is very concerning. And we've a manager at the moment who is somewhat in a little bit of denial about what's needed in this team. And that's very concerning as well. And that's no disrespect to the manager. He's brought us some great times and stuff like that, but we have to call it as we see it. And the press conferences for me at the moment at times are very bewildering. But sure, look, we'll go again. We'll be back on Monday with the Monday mashup, of course. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. We really, really appreciate it. Stay safe. You'll never walk alone. This is the Shankly Sessions. This has been your Liverpool versus Wolves 2-2 FA Cup match reaction and player ratings. We will talk to you again real soon. Smash a like on the video, sub to the channel, hit the bell notification so you're contacted anytime we go live, and we will talk to you again real soon.